Welcome to my Primary Languages CPD Series, Part 9, Choosing a Scheme of Work. My name is Claire Seckham and I'm a languages teacher and an independent consultant. You can read more about what I have to say about primary languages on my blog, and you can see the URL here. Any resources that I show you, you can find on my website, which is called Lightbulb Languages. So our big question is, how should schools go about choosing a scheme of work? The decision that you make depends somewhat upon who teaches languages in your school. As a language specialist, you'll be ideally placed to create your own scheme of work or to choose something appropriate that is available commercially. The term non-specialist always seems like a bit of a misnomer, as teachers who are not specialist in teaching languages are, of course, highly specialised primary practitioners. However, non-specialist language teachers, particularly non-specialist language coordinators, will need some guidance when it comes to selecting a scheme of work to use in their school. You'll have the choice of schemes that are available free and others that your school will have to pay for. Many offer a trial so that you can see if it is a good fit for your school. Consider how well it suits you, how well it suits other teachers who use it, and the children who you teach in the time that you have available. The ideal scheme of work for you will vary according to these factors. There is no one-size-fits-all. To establish if your choice is a good fit, ask yourself these questions. Is it accessible to the teaching team? If non-specialist teachers have to use it, does it have sufficient support for them? Can it be easily split up into lesson length sections? If you have half an hour a week, can the content be split into this length of lesson? Refer to Part 4 of this series for discussion of the time allocation for languages in Key Stage 2. How happy are you that it enables all children to reach substantial progress in one language by the end of Year 6? Does its overview enable you to see that information? Are you happy with the sequence of the lessons and the amount of time that it gives children to practice and embed the language, and do they get the chance to be creative with the language, to say what they want to say? Are opportunities built in for the children to retrieve prior learning, to revisit and to recycle language that they have learned before? Does it allow time for building confidence and security in the language, or does it move too quickly through the content? Does it make links with prior learning and allow children to know more and remember more? Is it ambitious enough? Does it teach just enough vocabulary without overburdening the children? Does the scheme of work introduce and revisit key phonemes and graphemes systematically, and is the grammar content built up sensibly and systematically? Are opportunities for assessment built in, and are they manageable for everyone? Are you happy with the resources, in particular any resources that the children will be using to demonstrate their learning and to be creative? Are they meaningful, varied and age appropriate? Do they have a pedagogical purpose so that children can demonstrate what they know and what they can do? Are the contexts in which the language is placed, or the topics, engaging and interesting for the children? Finally, does the scheme of work provider make available support should you need it, and CPD as appropriate? If you're creating your own scheme, my first recommendation is that you make yourself a wish list of the grammar and structures that you'd like to include. The amount of language you choose to have in your scheme will depend on the amount of time that you have available, as mentioned before. What are the essentials for you? One way of brainstorming your wish list would be to have a look at the ASCII transition toolkits, which have a good list of the language that ideally we would like Year 6 to have learned. Once you have your wish list of grammar, verbs and structures that you want to include, the next step is to figure out the contexts or the topics in which you're going to introduce them, teach them, practice them and revisit them. For example, if you've decided that one of the things you want the children to do is describe using correct adjectival agreement, you'll need to decide, firstly, when you are first going to introduce nouns, Then, when you are going to explain about grammatical gender, when children are going to meet their first adjectives and what they're going to do with them, and finally, when will they find out about adjectival position and about agreement? All this at once would be far too much for the children to take in all in one go. It needs spacing out and gradually building up with lots of practice and lots of creative work in between. Also influencing your choice of topics might be, how easy is it to resource a certain topic? Have you already seen some resources for a certain topic that you know you'd be able to use effectively? Does it fit in with or link to the class's topic in another subject area? Is the topic that you have in mind age appropriate, and would you be able to get out of it the kind of outcomes that you want? Do you and the children enjoy this kind of topic? So by this stage, you've compiled your wish list of grammar and structures, and you've started to slot those into contexts or topic areas through which your wish list will be taught. You'll also need to make lists of the vocabulary that will form part of each of those topics, being mindful of the frequency of those lexical items, not choosing too many, but planning in some teaching of dictionary skills so that children can help themselves to say what they want to say, and also thinking about choosing words that will help you with phonics. You'll find that all this will take a while, with a lot of chopping and changing, a lot of rearranging and cutting and pasting. Your topics and language can be arranged in lots of different ways to create different sensible outcomes. Once you've found an order that you're happy with, I recommend testing it out by adding to your documentation the language outcomes for each unit. This will not only be helpful for any less experienced teachers using your scheme, but will also show the content and the progression of your scheme very clearly. It'll also help to show any anomalies or any tweaks that you'll need to make. The final part of the project is to think about and gather together or to make the resources that you're going to use so that your scheme is attractive and appetizing to the teachers and to the children, and also to think about the learning activities that you're going to do to present, practice and embed the learning. The programme of study specifies stories, poems, songs and rhymes as an integral part of language learning in Key Stage 2. You'll need to find some for your new scheme as key resources to complement the content or indeed to help you to teach and practice your content. When your new scheme is finished, it's time to ask yourself the same questions that I mentioned earlier on for evaluating a scheme to see if it is a good fit. We will delve further into primary languages in the next videos.